something's different.
I am changing.
I don't know if I like who I'm becoming.
Boyd, there are a lot of people wanting to know what happened down there.
Mom, where's Dad? Why isn't he back yet?
Tabitha.
We need to talk.
It means everything they showed us is real. I think they're doing it to make us afraid.
Well, then it worked. There is something ancient here. And it's feeding off our suffering, and it doesn't stop.
We're losing. We're running out of time, and we still don't know the goddamn rules. There is no way to fight back against those things. Everything we've done, every sacrifice we've made, none of us are going anywhere.
You think you're some kind of hero? You're a monster.
Lord, please protect us in this dark place where evil roams so freely. This we ask in your name. Amen.
One way or another, the truth always comes out.
I would make sure it doesn't.
And welcome welcome all to From Season 4, Episode 4, After Show Discussion Part 2. And here we are, folks, just fresh off of Episode 2, just hitting our screens less than 24 hours ago now. After we've had a chance to watch the episode and maybe dissect it and chew on it a little bit more. It's always fun to kind of dive in and see what exactly can we take away from this episode. This was a good one, I thought. I thought we had a lot of fun diving into this one last night, doing the watch party, the pregame show, and talking about it afterwards. But so much to unpack. There's definitely a lot to unpack in this episode, and we definitely did not cover everything, even though we did go for quite a while. But there's always so much to talk about when it comes to these new episodes of From that we're getting in Season 4. They're throwing a lot more at us in these episodes than they have in previous episodes, which is good. They do need to kind of move the plot forward a little quicker now, and I think they are for the most part. But yeah, this was an interesting episode. This was an interesting episode indeed. But welcome, everybody. Welcome one, welcome all. Has anyone seen it? I think most of us here have seen Episode 4. It usually releases at midnight Eastern Standard Time on Saturday night, last night. At least if you live here in the States and you are a member of MGM Plus, you get it Saturday night at midnight, right? As soon as it turns midnight, boom, they upload the new episodes on the MGM Plus streaming service. So by now, I imagine most people have seen it, but I know not everybody has, unfortunately, because depending on where you live, what part of the globe you live in, it gets released at different times in different places. Like we know Canada doesn't get it till Monday. Other parts of the world don't get it till Monday. So yeah, I imagine a lot of people, most people have probably seen it by now, but maybe not everybody. And so that's definitely true. But we will be talking Episode 4. So just a heads up for anyone who maybe hasn't seen the episode yet and you don't want to get spoiled or anything like that. Totally cool. Because we definitely will be diving into Episode 4. And again, we got some interesting things. We got some interesting things in Episode 4, and definitely looks like Episode 5 is going to be probably even more intense than this one was. But let's see what we got here in the chat. Welcome one, welcome all. We got Anime Jane in the house. Welcome, Anime Janie. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We got Fenrir in the building. Welcome, welcome. Is Ethan the man in yellow? I mean, there's been so many questions and so many theories in terms of who is the man in yellow. Are one of our characters going to become the man in yellow at some point? Some people think Ethan's the man in yellow. Some people think Randall's going to become the man in yellow. Some people think there's almost every character has been theorized to be the man in yellow at this point in time on the show. And for me personally, I'm starting to think a lot more and more that none of our characters are going to be the man in yellow. The man in yellow is just the man in yellow. He's his own thing. He's his own separate character, his own separate entity, and he's not human. This thing is not human from what we can tell. He's very much otherworldly. He's beyond human, supernatural, as it were. So when I think of the man in yellow, I tend to think that he's just his own character, that it's not secretly Ethan or any of these other characters. I know that time travel has been introduced into the story with Julie's Storywalking, so anything is really possible. But I tend to think, or at least I really hope, that the man in yellow is just the man in yellow. I'm hoping he's his own character, and it's not secretly Ethan or Randall or anyone else. But that's just my personal theory. I could very well be wrong. Could very well be wrong. And of course, yes, happy Mother's Day to all of the wonderful mothers out there all over the world. Yes, today is Mother's Day. Awesome day. I had a great day, Mother's Day, with my mom today. And yeah, it's just a very special day. Always great to have a nice day and appreciate your mother. Nothing wrong with that. But yeah, happy Mother's Day to all of the moms out there. Happy Mother's Day. Am I the man in yellow? You being the man in yellow might be more plausible than Ethan or Randall and all of the others being the man in yellow, or at least that's kind of how I look at it anyway. I think the man in yellow is going to be his own character, but who knows? Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you are the man in yellow. Maybe it was you the whole time. Maybe it was you the whole time. We found the mole, ladies and gentlemen. We found the mole. Let's see what else we got. Should I be ashamed to say I've already watched it 3 times? Absolutely not. There is nothing wrong with already watching the episode multiple times. I myself have already watched it twice. If I would have had a chance to watch it 3 times and get a little deeper into my breakdowns, I would have. But I had, other plans today. It was Mother's Day, got to take a day off every once in a while. But yeah, no, nothing wrong with already watching it 2 or 3 or even 4 or 5. I imagine there's people that have probably already watched it 5 times, to be honest. So yeah, nothing wrong with already watching it multiple times. That's what the show is for. This is the kind of show where you kind of need to watch each episode at least twice. Like for me, before I really like to dive in, I love doing the live reactions like this, like the live reaction fresh after watching it, kind of boom, first take, first thoughts kind of thing. Like I always love doing those, but if I'm going to sit down and do like a recorded video on the episode, like I do later on in the week, I usually like to have watched it at least 2 or 3 times before I can really kind of gather all my thoughts and really put my kind of theories out there. Because you just, so much happens in these episodes that for me anyway, I really like to sit and study every single storyline as meticulously as I possibly can before kind of, diving into the video. But that's also why I also like doing just the initial thoughts and reactions right away as well, like we do live. But yeah, nothing wrong with watching. I mean, again, it's almost requirement to watch these episodes at least more than once, for sure. Almost at least more than once is required viewing. Abby's ring with the infinity symbol, is a representation of the endless loop from. It could be. And we've talked a little bit about this in the past in terms of the figure 8 kind of symbol that we see on that ring, and what it represents exactly. Does it represent the? So here we go. We got PM joining us. Welcome.
Hi.
There we go. But yeah, we the loop, the infinity loop that we see, the symbol on Boyd's wife's ring, the ring that we see play an interesting part in this episode. We've talked a little bit about what it is and what it could mean. Now, obviously, if it is the infinity symbol, then yes, that's, that tends to reason that this could be some kind of representation of these never-ending cycles that seem to be happening within From. This kind of history repeating itself over and over again, because we also have this infinity symbol on the cave painting as well. When we look down at the cave paintings on the wall in the cave paintings, at the very end of it, and those cave paintings generally are always depicting a story reading from left to right. And when you get all the way to the right, the last symbol all the way at the end is that infinity symbol, almost like it's telling the story of the original cycle and then showcasing that everything kind of repeats all over again. Once you get to the end, everything starts all over again. So when you look at those cave paintings, it very much looks like it is one just giant depiction of the first cycle, because we see the sacrifices represented on the cave paintings and other things that seem familiar within Fromville. So I think that's what it is. I think that's what those cave paintings are ultimately meant to represent, the original cycle. And then at the very end, we see the infinity symbol, and indicating to us that these cycles go on to repeat maybe forever, unless someone finds a way to break them. But PM, you also brought up another interesting idea in terms of the symbol that we saw in the ring, and how the infinity symbol and the fish and loaves symbol are very similar, like in terms of their, the symbols themselves. They're very similar. So I also liked that take that you brought up as well, in terms of it maybe not just being an infinity symbol, it maybe being a representation of the fish and loaves symbol, because we know how close fish and loaves is between Abby and Boyd. So I liked that take from you as well when you brought that up. But yeah, when I see that symbol, those are my two favorite theories. The infinity symbol representing the repeating cycles, or the fish and loaf symbol representing the bond between Abby and Boyd.
Yes. So I like the idea of it being something that stands for multiple things in the story.
Multiple
I mean,
meanings. Dual
when
meanings.
you are engraving on a ring, it's a very small space. So details can get lost depending on who is engraving the ring. I do believe that because they called each other by their nicknames, we know that Boyd's wife, her code word to Sarah was Mr. Fish and Loaves.
Mr. Fish
It's
and Loaves.
something,
Yeah.
something very special between them. I think that it would make sense if you're marrying Mr. Fish and Loaves, you would inscribe it with the symbol that represents the man that you've married, right? This man that you're in love with. I also like the idea that it's not just Mr. Fish and Loaves, it's not just that symbol, but it's the symbol of eternal love. When you get married, that's a symbol that people use a lot, this infinity symbol. And it's a standby as a promise of loving this
Forever.
person, right?
Yes.
Forever and every
Exactly.
lifetime. And it sounds very romantic, right? Like, I will love
Yeah.
you in every lifetime, I will find you,
Yeah.
right? Very romantic. It just so happens to be that in From, there are multiple lifetimes. And guess what? You do get to reincarnate.
And
And
you do get to kind of
apparently
reincarnate.
you don't love them, Tabitha and Jade. We see how that's going. But I think that it makes sense that it stands for both things.
Dual meanings. Yeah. And we've seen multiple representations throughout the show of whether it's the titles having dual meanings within the episodes, or whether there's some kind of symbolic representation of something within the episode that can be referring to more than one thing at a time. And yeah, this could be another one of those instances where it doesn't mean just any one of those things. It could be a wink and a nod to maybe all of them. Because these symbols represent multiple different things for multiple different people. The infinity symbol can, at one point, from one perspective, represent the repeating cycles. But as you mentioned, it can also represent the bond between Abby and Boyd, the promise that they made to each other to love each other till death do us part forever. So yeah, no, I love the idea of certain kind of symbolic references within the show having just dual meaning sometimes, not exactly meaning just one thing, but multiple things. But yeah, I like that. I like that.
I wonder, we didn't get a chance to see what's inscribed within Boyd's ring. Now, he wears a much thinner ring. We see
A little
that
bit thinner,
when,
yep.
yeah, we see that when he's looking at both rings, he's holding up his hand and you see that it's much thinner. So I'm wondering, does it have something inscribed inside of it? And is he going to talk about it in the next episode? Is he going to be open to discussing what he has seen? And
Yeah.
I'm hopeful because they're finally communicating, right? We have been asking, can you please communicate? And it seems like they're finally doing it. So that's very exciting for me.
Yeah, I mean, it is something we have been asking for, right? I mean, we've been wanting these characters to share information with each other from since the very beginning, and everyone was just kind of keeping everything to themselves. But yeah, now I love how Boyd has kind of his own little posse. He's got his own little posse, his own little inner. It's even referred to as his inner circle in the synopsis for the episode.
Mhm.
And I love that. I like that's perfect. Like this is a dynamic of the show that should have developed way long ago. And I know it kind of has to a certain degree, where Boyd has always had certain people that he's kind of trusted a little more than others. But we're actually seeing this little group work as an actual team. Boyd, Jade, Tabitha, Ellis, Kenny, Donna, even Henry to a certain extent. And I love that. I just feel like that's a dynamic that should have developed way earlier on the show. This little posse of Boyd kind of assembling his own little Magnificent Seven in a sense. So yeah, I love that. I love that we're seeing these characters really legitly work together at this point, and work together to the point where it seems like they're finally on the trail of getting real answers.
Exactly. Yes, and I really like this comment here, Jeremy,
Our
because
from
this is
therapist.
something our from therapist, right? This is something that we have been trying to explain, right? In
Mhm.
From, you're going to see similarities or callbacks to a lot of different themes and genres. For
Yep.
example, we were just
Yep.
saying Lord of the Rings
Yes.
definitely was paid tribute in the
Yep.
last episode.
Frankenstein.
Frankenstein.
Yep.
Does it mean that they are connected or that you will find your answers there? No. But
No.
it does mean that they use the themes within those stories, and
Yes.
also they pay tribute to those stories by incorporating some elements like the ring that Boyd is looking for and the golem, right? That came out of
Yep.
nowhere. I know a lot of you guessed that it would be a golem. I didn't. I was
Mhm.
like so surprised when she starts talking about golem. But I do like this comment. If you could read it, Jeremy.
Yes, absolutely. Our resident from therapist says, I don't think Fringe, From, and Lost are connected, but they all have themes and love paternal and romantic and great character development, even outside the mystery aspect. And that is kind of how I view all of these different mystery shows as well. Like when I look at Fringe and I look at Lost, I don't feel like you're going to be able to watch either of those shows and get the answers to From. I just don't feel like that's the case. Yes, do they share certain similar kind of tropes and certain similar kind of story points? Yes, but these are very different stories at the end of the day. So yeah, I don't think they're like too connected, other than like you said, essentially them being very heavily reliant on the mystery box aspect of storytelling, but all told through very different mediums. Fringe very much told through the sci-fi kind of lens. Lost very much towards a little bit more the fantasy adventure kind of lens, and From very much more towards the horror supernatural lens. So while they're all very much mystery shows, they're all told in a very different format, and I like that. I feel like they are very different stories at the end of the day, and that's why I always say, like, I don't want From to look too much like Lost. There's already too many parallels with Lost as it is. But yeah, I think that they are, these are very much different stories. You're not going to be able to watch Lost or Fringe and get the answers to From.
Hmm. Yes, but like our From therapist says, there are eternal themes within every story.
The themes are carried
Every
over. Yeah.
Exactly. Every artistic work of art tends to have a theme, whether it's pain or love. At the end of the day, I think when it comes to love, being loved is something that every human desires,
Yeah.
whether that is for your parent to love you or to find a romantic love. At the end of the day, is feeling part of a community, feeling loved, feeling valued. And when we look at From, we are looking at a community that betrayed that love that parents are supposed to have for their children, the
Mhm.
trust that children put in their parent to take care of them, to
Yep.
make the best decision for them. So it is a deep rooted story of betrayal
Yep.
of the worst kind,
Yep.
because they were created. So you are a creation only created to be killed. That is
Mhm.
betrayal on a cosmic level. So
By
are
your
they
own
angry?
family. Yeah.
That's why I think the children are the engineers of From. Because
Mhm.
would you be angry if this sort of betrayal is, what's done to you when you are
Mhm.
at your most vulnerable? Yeah, I would be pissed. Am I gonna make a
Yeah.
whole world inside a like collapsing timeline? Yeah. I would. If I had the power to, right? That level of betrayal, yeah, it's gonna make you do
Maybe.
something for sure.
Maybe. Yeah, it's you know, like you said, the whole story, that's what's interesting about From. You know, we learn that this whole story began with betrayal and sacrifice. That were the pillars of the foundation of this story. Betrayal and sacrifice, human sacrifice, child sacrifice, nonetheless. And you definitely see those themes kind of carried over throughout the cycles as the story goes on. But yeah, I think it's going to be interesting to see. Again, I'm really hoping by the time season 4 ends, you know, we're not even halfway through yet. And I imagine the second half of the season is going to hold a lot more in terms of like actually revealing answers than the first half of the season is going to hold. But I really am hoping that by the time season 4 is done, we're going to have a much, much clearer image, a clearer picture of exactly what From is and what's really going on here heading into the final season. Not all the answers, of course, but I'm hoping we're going to get some definitive stuff in that second half. Ty says, I think part of the reason they are in From is because they are bad communicators. I mean, could that even be a possibility? Maybe. It may be. Who knows?
It's a qualifier, would you say,
it's a qualifier,
Ty?
yeah.
It's a qualifier. You have to have a transition period in your life, and you have to be extremely bad with communicating. You have to see the unbelievable and keep it to yourself. I couldn't. These people, they surprise me because they're able to see demonic angel-like creatures according to Elgen, hear voices, and they keep that to themselves. I'm a talker. You guys know I'm a talker. I would be telling everybody.
That's not the kind of thing you keep to yourself. Like in a place like this, in this nightmarish landscape where they don't know much, they don't know the rules of this place, they don't know how to get out, but of course they want to get out. At least most of them want to get out. Yeah, if you're having some weird kind of vision of this little boy in white telling you to do weird shit, like that's something you should probably share with other people. But I love this. Westeros says, how's everybody doing? How's everyone tonight? What is your favorite WTF moment? Mine is the NPC that pulled the rope.
Yeah, I'm telling you. That's a good one.
Because he's a total NPC. Like this was one of the characters. You know what's funny about that? This particular NPC? This particular NPC is one of the characters that stormed Tien Chen's house trying to get the food. He was one of the ringleaders that stormed freaking Tien Chen's house. And he was also on one of the previous food trips in season 3, at the end of season 3, when he was there hearing one of the knocking. So he's heard that there's some weird shit in this place. And the NPC just pulling up that fucking rope like he doesn't give two fucks as to what's on the other end of it. Like you're not in some nightmarish landscape. Yeah, that was hilarious seeing him just pull that rope and the way you describe it. Just
yeah, that was so funny. He didn't question it. He didn't discuss it with anybody. And the chat is saying it. His name is Roger. They couldn't have picked a better name. He is being such a Roger. Look at him. He's being such a Roger. He doesn't question it. He's just like, oh, rope. Okay, just pull it. It takes no time. There's no processing. It's like, Roger, what are you up to, dude?
Oh my God, what are you doing, bro? What are you doing? Yeah, this was a pretty funny moment. This poor NPC just pulling up this rope. And again, I think this moment would have been even cooler if we didn't kind of see the season 4 trailer and what is most likely coming up from that lake. But still, yeah, very fun and extra points to you, King of Westeros, for your phrasing of your favorite part of the episode. The NPC just yanking on the fucking rope. Gotta love it. Got to love it. Steve says, I think the Lake of Tears is below the lighthouse, the other side of the spider webs. When she was pushed out, how did she otherwise survive? Ethan said it had healing properties found on a road by a lake. I mean, whatever happened to Tabitha in the lighthouse is still very much kind of unclear, right? I mean, all we know is that the boy in white pushed her out the window and she ended up in the real world. And yes, she ended up on some kind of on the side of the road. what we told anyway, is that she ended up on the side of a road near some trail, basically just off some trail on the side of the road somewhere. And they brought her to the hospital, and she wakes up 3 days later. And that's why we get that 3-day time jump in between seasons 2 and 3 of From. But yeah, what exactly really happened? What was the mechanism in which Tabitha actually made it from A to B? Did she fall out of that window and fall through some sort of portal? Like, what exactly really happened to her? We still don't know. I mean, will we ever return to that moment? Is that a moment that maybe Julie can story walk back to and actually see what really happened to Tabitha? Because we always see is her going out the window. We don't see where she lands, what she lands on. So yeah, you bring up a good point, Steve. What could have been, how did she get from A to B? What was the mechanism in which she gets from A to B?
I like it. This is something new. I
Yeah,
always like hearing new theories.
same.
And this is something I had not heard before. The Lake of Tears being the reason why she survives such a
Right.
fall
I
would
like it.
make sense.
I like it.
I originally just thought this is a magical place. This does not belong in the real world. And so, therefore, he's kicking her out of whatever plane of existence they're currently occupying. And she's falling into one of the timelines that's, concurrent with their timeline. But if we're looking at it from a perspective of she would have died had she fallen from that great height, then yeah, maybe the Lake of Tears is beneath there. We haven't seen any water around the lighthouse, but why is there a lighthouse in the middle of the woods if there is
Exactly.
no water to guide, right? All know that is what a lighthouse is for, to guide you, right? To act as a guide, as protection for the people that used to sell, and it was very important, right?
Yeah,
I
yeah, to
also really
guide you
like.
in at night, to protect you from the reef so you didn't slam into the rocks, when you were coming in sailing. Like, yeah, it's very weird to see one in the middle of the forest like this.
Yes, so I don't know if you guys have seen the movie The Lighthouse.
Ah, yes.
Lighthouses, and there is a true crime story. If you guys like true crime and you enjoy stories that have mystery and solving, or attempting to solve cases, that's what I do. um there is a story about lighthouse attendees. This is a real life
Yeah,
story, and then there's a movie where they lived a very solitary life because you had to
yeah,
be tending to the lighthouse at all times. You had to live there for an extended period of time. And
yeah.
sometimes you would have one or two people working with you. They used to go insane constantly.
The
One,
isolation.
because
Yeah,
the isolation, but some of the
yeah,
chemicals that were used
yeah.
was also something that was affecting them. And they used to go insane, and they would find the lighthouse empty and the bodies on the floor. So if you're interested in spooky stuff like that, look at Lighthouse Horror, True
Mm,
Life,
yeah.
and the movie, and you'll see that lighthouses are a very spooky, creepy thing.
You're 100% right there. It's, you see a lighthouse and you kind of maybe don't pay much mind to it, don't pay much attention to it. You see it, oh yeah, guides and ships. But yeah, there's such a dark history behind them, not behind, behind the guarding of them. And like you said, it's super a test of kind of isolation, because it usually is only two people, two operators. And yeah, and especially like the movie The Lighthouse, I love how they depict it, back in the day, where it was even worse, where there was no communication, there was no cell phones, there was no radio that you could pick up and contact the mainland. It was just pure isolation, you and this other person and nothing else. And yeah, that kind of thing can drive you mad. And then, you mix in the chemicals, like, oh man, it's a horror story when you see the dark history of lighthouses. Um, and that's interesting. I mean, do you think we'll see this lighthouse play into anything like that? Again, the lighthouse is still just such a huge mystery on this show. I have to imagine they're going to return to it at some point. I have to imagine we're completely done with the lighthouse. It being such a big focal point of the show in the beginning, and it being still such a huge question mark. I have to imagine the lighthouse will return to the narrative at some point.
Yes, I think it definitely has to come full circle. And one of the things that we have been asking ourselves, We know that we see the ritual where it took place, where the children were sacrificed. This was underground in the caves. Now
Yeah.
they are, laying down on slabs. But when the boy in white has indicated to anybody that has resurrected where to find the children, he directs them to the lighthouse. So, how is it that the children went from being
Mhm.
sacrificed underground to the lighthouse,
To being in
which
the
seems to
tower.
be very
Yeah.
far away,
To being
right?
in this tower. Yeah. Mhm.
Yes. So I think it has to come full circle. I understand the boy in white said it's probably not going to take you there anymore, but they still need to get there, whether it's
Mhm.
through the tree or walking around and trying to find it like Sarah and Boyd did. It
Yeah.
is possible because we saw that they were successful in finding it.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, they almost got there on foot. I mean, it was by accident, but they still almost got there on, by foot. And I always question whatever it was that was dragging their tent that night, because we see Boyd and Sarah were, making camp. They have their tent set up, and the next thing they know, they hear walking around them, and boom, something grabs their tent and drags them. Lord only knows where. But when they're done, when the tent stops, all of a sudden they're super close to the lighthouse, way closer. I mean, the reason their tent got dragged is why they found the lighthouse. When they were done, they could literally see the light shining from the lighthouse when their tent kind of stopped. And that always made me wonder what exactly was dragging their tent, and why were they dragging the tent? Was this person trying to get Boyd and Sarah closer to the lighthouse? Why drag them closer to the lighthouse? Why drag them super far and then drop them right in the spot where they'll be an eye distance of the lighthouse? That always struck me as super weird. You tend to think when you see that scene that whatever's dragging their tent is, going to harm them. It's going to kill them. They're in a lot of trouble here. But it doesn't. It doesn't harm them. It easily could have, I imagine, but it doesn't. It doesn't harm them. It actually brings them closer to the lighthouse. So I really hope we return to that scene at some point, if not this season, in the final season. I really hope that they resolve that question. What exactly was
Mhm.
dragging this tent, and why? And were they trying to get Boyd and Sarah closer to the lighthouse?
I mean, I always believed that it was the boy in white who dragged the tent.
Mhm.
I think that it would make sense. He is the person that tends to tell people where to go. As you have pointed out, it seems that in the past he had some power over the trees, guiding them and telling people now it's safe to go, right? Go into the tree, just
Mhm.
like he told Sarah. So if he guided them to go into the tree and they didn't happen to land where he wanted them, it made sense to me that he would show up and drag them to where he wanted them to be, because
Mhm.
they are not attacked, they are
Mhm.
simply moved, but they are not in danger, right? We see that they're moved and it's violent, right? A violent mood because everything around them is like
Yeah, Boyd's
going
freaking
around.
out. I mean, they think they're goners. Like, they think it's over for them. Yeah,
Yeah, but nothing happens to them. So that's why I'm
exactly.
thinking, it would make sense that it was the boy in white,
The
at least
only
to me.
and the boy in white has always been a strong suspect for me too, as well. The only thing that makes me suspect that it might have not have been the boy in white is that the very next that if that was the boy in white, the very next time we see the boy in white, not very long after, he's sending them directly away from the lighthouse, sending them into the tree. Now, could that be because it was just getting dark and he was worried for them? Maybe. But it almost seemed like the boy in white showed up and guided Boyd and Sarah into the tree because he didn't want them to get to the lighthouse. Like, they weren't the ones that were meant to go to the lighthouse, kind of thing. So I always kind of thought the boy in white was turning them around, and that whatever dragged their tent was trying to get them to the lighthouse. So I always kind of thought it might be two different things, but it could have been. I mean, it could have been the boy in white did both, and he just saw that they were in danger and guided them to the tree so they wouldn't die. That is possible. But I guess it's just, interesting, if he was trying to get them to the lighthouse, why turn them away from it when they're so close to it too?
Well, the reasoning why I'm thinking that it is a possibility is now that we know more information. At the time, we didn't know a lot, right? We just saw what happened, but we didn't know anything about reincarnation. Now that we know that it's Tabitha and Jade who reincarnated because of what they almost did to their child and what happened to the children, it makes sense that it can't be Boyd and Sarah who saved the children. It must be one of the parents. And
Yeah,
so, therefore, he's not telling everybody, right? He's not showing up
yeah,
and telling random people, go to the lighthouse, save the children. It's very
exactly.
specific who he chooses to tell.
It
So,
seems to.
it could have been just that he didn't want to hurt them. He didn't want them to go into the lighthouse and potentially get hurt because it's not meant for them, just like
Mhm.
Dale, and end up in the pool. I think he
Then,
might have been protecting them.
but then why drag him? Why drag them towards it in the first place? I guess if he's the one who did both things.
Maybe he doesn't have control over precisely where they land unless they are Tabitha and Jade.
Hmm. Okay, yeah, but I still don't see why he would drag the tent closer to the lighthouse and then send them away from the lighthouse, I guess.
Mhm.
Why drag them
Who
closer to it in
who
the first?
knows? He's a freaky little kid.
This is
He's
true.
a freaky
And
kid in
I
white.
love how
Jeremy,
Boyd I
stop
love how
trying to get
Boyd
into his head.
I'm just trying to get his motive down. If he did both of
Mhm.
these things, it's not making a lot of sense unless something else dragged the
He's a
tent
freaky kid in
and
white.
the
He's
boy in white sent them into the tree. But yeah, I
I
love how
love
Boyd calls him that. Boyd calls this freaky little kid in white.
the freaky kid in white said, listen,
Uh,
he changed his mind.
yeah,
Can't a
maybe he
freaky
just
kid in
changed his
white
mind.
change his mind? Yes, he
He
can.
might have.
Okay.
He might have. He might have just changed his mind. That is very possible. This boy in white is very finicky. This little freaky kid in white. But yeah, no, I tend to think it might be two different things, but it could have been that he could have just changed his mind, or again, he could have just saw that it was becoming nighttime. He saw that they were going to be in danger, and said, get in this tree. You're not meant to go to that lighthouse anyway. I don't know, but I do hope we do get a definitive answer. I guess at some point, hopefully, we get some kind of definitive look at what was really dragging that tent, and maybe that's something we could see through Julie's story walking, escapades. Maybe she story walks back to that night and gets a glimpse of what was dragging the tent. Maybe. I don't know. I guess we'll see. It's going to be interesting to see how they utilize the story walking going forward. Very,
I
very
mean,
interesting.
I watched it for the second time, and
Mhm.
her way of explaining her bookmark storyline, I think that it does coincide with what you guys said in the chat last night.
Yeah.
When you guys in the chat introduced the idea that it would have to be Victor's drawings that act as a
It could be.
bookmark, she
Mhm.
says drawing a symbol
Yeah.
could be the bookmark, right? It
Yeah.
doesn't work for her, but perhaps it's because she's just making a generic symbol, and Victor is
Well,
actually documenting time and space and actual factual events that
yeah.
when you are remembering, you are mentally traveling back to that instance. You are remembering, you are feeling. For somebody like Victor, who is very heavily traumatized, that's why we have PTSD,
Yeah.
because sometimes for people the memory can be so powerful that when you are remembering a scene, you are back there mentally, you're
Mhm.
stuck in that moment.
Yeah.
So there is power in what Victor does and his drawings. I think maybe she
Easy.
just might need to grab a hold of them and see if she could story walk to the specific
If
scenes
it'll
that he
work.
has drawn.
Yeah.
Yes.
And when it comes to Julie story walking and using that symbol, I'm wondering if this could be evidence that maybe proves or at least points in the direction that Ethan isn't exactly right about story walkers not being able to change things. Because Julie doesn't just pull that symbol out of thin air. That's the exact symbol that is actually in the Grand Gulag book. That's the symbol that Fred, the story walker, uses as his bookmark in the story. Julie copies that same symbol that Fred uses from the book and tries to use it for her own bookmarks, but it doesn't work. We saw it very clearly does not work. She seems to, maybe the answer is she needs to come up with her own bookmark, not just copy one out of a children's drawing. But with her copying it out of Ethan's book and it not working, is that potential evidence that maybe Ethan was wrong, that maybe maybe the knowledge that Ethan is getting from this book isn't exactly how things really work here in Fromville in the real world with these abilities. If this bookmark idea in the book worked in the book but didn't work in the real world, maybe Ethan was also wrong about Julie not being able to change things.
I would have to believe so. I would just have to believe that Ethan, while he may know a lot about the book, there's going to be differences because
Yeah.
this isn't the Chromonacle book. Okay, they are humans, they're not Chromonacles. It seems like the depiction is of a monster. When we look at the book, there's like a little monster that's in the depiction of the page that they're looking at. So there's going to be some differences. And like we said before, what are you going to do? Are you genuinely not going to try? You have been given a new ability. You're going to try that ability out, even if you're told you can't change anything.
Yeah.
You're going to try because there is nothing else to do. What are you going to do? Sit down and just wait for death? At this point, you need to make use of anything and everything. Even if you
Yeah.
don't change anything, having information, being able to go back in time and gather information as to how things work and from, that could be useful. But I do think that she's going to be able to change something. I think that
Yeah.
if she doesn't change, and we've discussed this, you can't change a story once it's been told, but you can add to the story. You can go back and you can add
Oh.
the resolution to the
Mhm.
story. You're not changing anything. You're just continuing and resolving the issue and the story. The story is incomplete. For the children, they were told there's hope of salvation, but they were not given a resolution. They're waiting. That's why they're stuck there. They're waiting this eternal opportunity of salvation. They need to resolve it. Tell them that they are saved, that they will be saved, that they are loved. I know
Mhm.
it's cheesy, but at the end of the day, this
Mhm.
is the story of love. This is the story of what a parent will do for their children, what they're willing to do, and the opposite of that, what a bad parent will do to their child, use them to gain immortality. So,
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, again, the whole thing starts with human sacrifice, literally sacrifice of your own children. But yeah, I mean, I think again, when it comes to Ethan just arbitrarily stating that she can't change anything, I'm not 100% sure if he's 100% right. Yeah, maybe it is a loophole there, like you mentioned, where it's not so much changing something, it's adding to the story. Maybe that is the answer. But again, maybe, because maybe Julie trying to use this symbol as her own bookmark is more evidence to the contrary that Ethan just isn't right. Maybe Ethan is getting this information from children's stories at the end of the day. And there's no one-to-one depiction from story to actual real life in Fromville. Because I do understand how Julie tries to kind of like explain it. She talks about what if, some of the stuff in Fromville has been seeping out into the real world. And a lot of the stuff that we've heard out in the real world has originated here in Fromville, is how she's kind of justifying it or thinking or theorizing it in her head, as we see in this episode. But yeah, with Julie using, trying, or at least trying to use this symbol as her bookmark and it not working for her, that gets me to wonder, maybe Ethan was wrong. Maybe Ethan was just wrong. Maybe Ethan thought he knew what he was talking about because of his knowledge that he has of, fantasy stories, but maybe he was wrong at the end of the day. And I did see, I know some people in the chat were thinking that maybe Julie throwing the rope was already evidence that she can change things. And again, that's been a very interesting debate with the whole rope thing, in terms of Julie throwing that rope, what exactly that means. And from what we've seen, there seems to be like two theories that seem to be the most popular when it comes to Julie throwing the rope. On one hand, you have people who think that Julie throwing the rope is proof or is evidence that she can change things. And then you have another camp that is usually states that Julie throwing the rope is something that she always did. Julie was always the one who threw the rope, where she's just experiencing it now because she doesn't experience time in a linear fashion anymore. Those are usually the two theories I see the most when it comes to the rope thing. And I suppose, again, we don't really have 100% definitive answer for either, really. But I definitely see where people are coming from, looking at that rope and thinking maybe this is evidence Julie can change things, or maybe Julie throwing the rope is something that was always meant to happen. Maybe it's more of the bootstrap paradox type thing where she was always meant to be at that moment. She was always the one who threw the rope. I don't know. Again,
Well,
there's good evidence for both.
when it comes to storytelling, I always praise the creator of From, because I do believe that he is a masterful storyteller
Mhm.
and I like his work. You do not tell a story where there is no opportunity of something that you have introduced to be useful. That is
Right?
tragic, yes,
Yeah.
but that's something that becomes a short form story. This is not a short form story. They are going on an adventure. So I don't think that he would introduce, and now we're getting out of frame, right?
Yeah.
When we talk about storytelling and writing, I feel
In
like
general.
now we are, kind of getting out of frame, breaking that fourth wall.
Yeah.
It has to mean something. We all know, if you know about good stories, they're not going to introduce something simply to make it not have any power, right?
Just a red
it,
herring.
it
Yeah.
would not make sense.
Mhm.
They do that in a short form story, but this is not a short form story. He has, chapters, he has all of this other stuff. So I just think there has to be something to it. Now,
Mhm.
on the topic of Julie's theory, we have to have Taryn Matheru, Taro Taryn back on the show, and we have to have Igor back on the show, because this is what I remember. I try to remember people's theories. There's a lot out there, so sometimes I forget.
Yeah,
But
a lot of good ones.
Igor, Igor has been theorizing the storyline aspect of From, saying that this is a story, whether it's a book or not. He has a whole video on the story part of From, that it is a
Mhm.
story that's just being told. Who is it being told to? I don't know. But
Okay.
Taryn has the other part of the theory. In Taryn's theory, he has a list of people. I don't think that it's going to be specific to those people, but he has a list of people that he believed in the real world were rewriting the story of From over and over and over. And he has a list of famous works of art and books where these writers and these painters were inspired by what happened in From, whether they were there or they got inspiration from it, and they kept rewriting the story. So when I heard that Julie said that, it reminded me of Terrence's theory. I sometimes I feel like they just like listen in. They're like, I like that part. Let's put that in there. The fact that in the real world there are people that have been inspired, whether because they ended up in From at some point in their life, or they just simply had to get the story out there as a way of helping the people that might end up in From. Maybe there's something that you remember about the stories. So anyway, we would have to have him on so that he could in detail explain that to us. But when I saw this, it reminded me of both of them, because it is both of their ideas put together.
Okay. Interesting. And yeah, and again, I'm always down to have either one of them on or both of them on anytime. To dive a little more into their stuff. Taron always has some very interesting ideas. He's always very well researched. He's very smart individual, and Igor as well. So yeah, no, I like both of those guys a lot. Really, really cool guys. But yeah, and that is what's so fun about the From fandom, just as a whole. Like, there's so many good ideas swirling around. Sometimes our ideas overlap, sometimes we have our own ideas, but there's just so many good kind of ways that so many people are trying to tackle this story and trying to solve it. And that's why we like doing these discussions. It feels like we're trying to solve this thing together. But we also have an interesting aspect here. And I was thinking, and I saw someone bringing this up last night as well, and I thought about it myself, and I thought, there's actually something to this right here. So here we have the idea of the Victor drawings, them potentially maybe being the bookmarks that Julie needs, which again was a very good theory. I still like that theory. But we also bring up a possibility, a hindrance here, as we see here. The Victor drawing theory to be the benchmark or the bookmarks doesn't exactly make sense. It doesn't make sense because it's like at some point she'll story walk to Jim's death, where she wanted to story walk to Victor had a drawing of Jim's death, and that was and not just Jim's death, but we were talking about this other, the other possibility of the Ankui sacrifice, the original sacrifice of the Ankui children, which Julie almost story walked to once before. If we actually think back to season 3, the first time Julie ever story walked, she ends up in Martin's chamber and she meets Martin. But after she leaves Martin's chamber, she goes outside the door. She finds herself in the caves below town, and she can hear Victor and Tabitha somewhere. So she was clearly in the caves at that point in time. But then she continues to walk down the caves a little bit further. And then all of a sudden you can't hear Victor and Tabitha anymore, but you can hear the Ankui children begin to cry and them chanting Ankui, Ankui, and then screaming the closer Julie gets. And you can see, like, right around the corner, if Julie were to walk like maybe 10 more feet, you can see that there is like torchlight coming from one of these cave openings. It seems like Julie actually story walked right back to the original Ankui sacrifice, actually when the children were getting sacrificed, just when Kenny and Acosta pull her out when Ethan goes to get Kenny and Acosta. But if Julie would have stayed in there for another 10 seconds, if she would have continued to walk another 10 feet and turn that corner, I imagine she would have seen the original chamber where the Ankui sacrifice was taking place right then and there, because we could hear those children screaming for their lives in that scene. So when I think of the drawings that Victor has being the bookmarks, I mean, yeah, maybe that can help her in a sense where it gets her to certain timelines and she can kind of get a bookmark in some of those certain timelines. But to travel back to the places that she really needs to go, like you mentioned, Jim's death, the original Ankui sacrifice, these are all things that, as far as we can tell, Victor doesn't have any drawings of. So yeah, that is the dilemma there. Can Julie use Victor's drawings as a way to get a little bit of a handle on her abilities? But when it comes to actually getting to the original sacrifice or getting to Jim's death, she's going to have to maybe do that on her own. And maybe that's why we see at the end of season 3, when we see that future version of Julie, when she first does find Jim, she says, I think this is when it happens. Because going to find Jim's death is something that's not super accurate because she doesn't have a bookmark for it.
Well, this is what I'm thinking, okay? I'm thinking it's a possibility, right? Theorizing here. Nothing is certain. We could definitely be wrong. But I like the idea of Victor's drawings being a bookmark for what she hasn't seen. She was not alive when Victor was living through all of these things. She wasn't even born. So, of course, she's not going to have, the ability to remember and then go back there, right? The drawings would help her go to specific scenes that Victor has depicted. He is the historian. He has written down the history of From and everything important that he thinks is important that has happened. Now, when it comes to the dad, she needs to start talking to her mom, to Jade, and to the inner circle, including Boyd. If she wants to know what happened to her father, she needs to talk to her mom as to where did you last see dad? And perhaps she starts making her own bookmarks, her own drawings. She draws the woods at that specific time by the RV. If that is the last time that Tabitha saw him, when she said, give me a minute, I need some time, then it makes sense that she's running around because she's not getting to that specific location and just appearing. She's running, right? She runs into the scene. It makes sense that she got into the woods at that specific time and she's running around trying to find them. And that's why she says, I think this is when it happens. And she doesn't get the right on time. So she doesn't have the precise time, but we know that she is in the location. She's going to need to start depicting the things that she wants to see from her time period. So I don't think that it's only Victor, that Victor is the only person that has the power to draw something and then make it a bookmark. I think
Others
Julie,
can.
yes, Julie, if she wants to travel through a very specific memory of hers, I think that she can make that drawing, which
Create
is
her
how I think that she might be able to travel not stay permanently, so not escape from, but travel to a time period before they weren't from.
Travel
So she
back to
could
the
travel back
the
to
real
when
world, maybe. Okay.
baby Thomas was alive and tried to save him, right? She
Hmm.
could travel outside of from. It's not going to be permanent. We see that it doesn't last. She goes in and out. So it's not a permanent escape, but
Yep.
perhaps she could travel and be out in the real world. Maybe all of these things that we have heard of somebody telling Jade, they come with you when you go, somebody gave him a soda. Maybe that was Julie. And she just
Hmm.
pops in and out of, these people's
The
lives.
timeline, maybe.
Hmm.
Yeah. I mean, seeing that we're starting to discover that Julie has traveled to other points in the past and has seemingly had some kind of at least some kind of interaction with things like the rope, for instance. Yeah, we naturally start to wonder what other kind of events has Julie maybe already influenced that we haven't seen yet, that our present Julie just hasn't story walked back to yet. But history wise, the timeline has already been affected by her events because she's going to do it one day. And yeah, could we see that there's going to be other events throughout the history of timeline that she was maybe also had a hand in? Like when we first watch season 2, episode 9, when Boyd is using the bile bullets against the monsters to see if they'll work. Of course, we don't see Julie in the woods during that episode, but here in season 4, when Julie starts the story walk, we see it through her POV that she was there during that time. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if we see similar events like that, where Julie was maybe off in the distance in the background for some other big events. Again, we saw her show up to the massacre of the 1978 cycle in this episode. So I have to imagine she's going to continue to pop up at other places in the timeline. But David also brought up an interesting idea as well. That maybe previous previous storywalkers have left bookmarks in other timelines that Julie can use herself. And I thought that was an interesting idea as well, David, that, yeah, are there previous storywalkers? Were there past storywalkers? And can Julie learn a little something from their journeys, from their travels that she can apply to her own, maybe? Because I know we've theorized as to who else could potentially be a story walker. I know the whole Eloise potentially being a story walker is a pretty popular theory in the fandom. Who knows? Who knows? Maybe she can learn something from the past. And it seems like that is her storyline at the end of the day. Julie's storyline very much is learning things from the past. But I also am really hoping that whatever she does go back to change, whatever she does go back to find out, there is going to be some kind of cost to it. Just, the whole tagline for this season, knowledge comes with a cost. Julie is essentially collecting knowledge that she technically shouldn't know, knowledge that she really shouldn't gain. She is the very living example of forbidden knowledge. So I really hope that at the end of the day, whatever she goes on to change, whatever she goes on to affect, there needs to be some kind of like dire consequence that she pays for it. There has to be a cost.
Exactly. And we know that the summary for the season has a very interesting line, Jeremy, where it says they're going to discover some answers that they are going to wish were
Has
left.
stayed hidden. Yes.
Exactly. So, right there, when they are summarizing what the season will be for us, they're letting us know, yes, the characters will work together. Maybe they're going to get some answers, but somehow they're going to be left in a place that is much worse than they were before. So, that makes me a little nervous. When you
Mhm.
phrase it in that manner, are we going to discover that one of our beloved characters is actually bad, that they had something to do with this? Are
Mhm.
we going to discover that the story is worse than it was presented? And yeah, I think that that's going to have to be through Julie, who
Yeah.
travels back in time and provides this information. I'm
Mhm.
really looking forward to Julie working with the group, Boyd's little gang. I think
Yes.
that they really
Yeah.
need to incorporate the last two people,
Yeah.
Julie and Randall, who
And
I'm
Rand.
loving. I am
And
absolutely loving Randall.
yeah.
He is such a protector. I like the way
Mhm.
that he's engaging with Julie, um, the way that he is there to help. He's kind of the muscle, right? He's
He's the
like, I
muscle.
don't really have
He's the big brother.
powers, but I'm
He's the
the
big brother.
muscle. I'll get you out, right? When I see you freaking out. And
Yeah.
he's willing to get hurt. Look at him. He's all scarred up. He has scars everywhere. He's willing
Yeah.
to get hurt. So I
Mhm.
really like that about Randall.
Yeah, the Randall and Julie team up has been pretty interesting to see where it's been going so far. And yeah, they're at least trying something. They're at least making headway. When you look at all the characters and all the different things that they're trying to do to find answers, to find ways out, Julie and Randall, they're at least onto something. Like this story walking ability, this was given to Julie for a reason. She has this ability for a purpose. This isn't just going to be some red herring kind of MacGuffin kind of ability. I get the feeling. I really feel it's going to play a very specific part. So they're on the right track. I feel Julie and Randall are very much on the right track with her, at least in the mindset of I need to get a better handle on this so I can control where I can travel to. And once she can finally conquer that, get to that point, then she can really start to apply, okay, how do I use this to change things? How do I use this to save my dad? How do I use this to save the children? And I think until, like you said, until she kind of meets up with Boyd and his crew in the inner circle, she's probably not even going to be thinking about using this ability to save the Onkui children. That's not even on her mind right now. She's only thinking about her dad and maybe Thomas. That's all she's thinking about saving right now. And maybe other people that she knows, like Tian Chen. She brought up the possibility of saving Tian Chen. But until Julie is kind of brought in with Tabitha and Jade and learns what Tabitha knows about who Tabitha and Jade really are, about the Onkui children, about the sacrifice, about saving the children, until Julie learns about all of that, she's not going to have really any reference to really know where to go to look for those kind of answers. So you're right. At some point, Julie and Randall need to be brought into Boyd's group so they all can kind of finally work together. But yeah, right now, yeah, she's only thinking about her dad right now, and you can't really blame her, right? I mean, or at least I can. I can't. You can't really blame her for only thinking about her dad right now. I mean, her dad literally just freaking died. It's only been what, like a day or two. So I totally understand. Like from her point of view, I can totally understand why she's only thinking about saving her father right now. But after she's done grieving, after she's had a chance to process Jim's death, and after she gets a little bit better at using this ability, and hopefully if Tabitha brings her in, at some point, I imagine she's going to kind of join them and start thinking about the larger picture and how maybe saving the children can save Jim by proxy, by way of butterfly effect, and who knows. But yeah, Katrina Marie for $4.99 also brings up, and thank you so much, Katrina Marie, for the $4.99. I want Victor's drawings to be the bookmarks, pictures, remember, and again, it would be fitting, right? Victor, like we've said, he's very much is the historian of Fromville. He's the memory. He's the keeper of the history of this place. So if anything was going to be used as some sort of bookmark, as some sort of kind of doorway into a specific time period, why not these very specific little slices of time that Victor has drawn all over the place? So no, I like the idea of the drawings potentially being, a type of bookmark, at least to get Julie to some of the places she needs to go. Maybe not all of them, but some of them.
Yes, Katrina Marie, thank you. And the pictures remember line, thank you for bringing that back up,
Yeah.
because it's really, even in the real world, scientifically, when you look at memory, what can trigger somebody's memory. You don't even have to be somebody that is as heavily traumatized as Victor to have the smell of a perfume or a cologne take you back
Yeah.
to when you were a child and your mother
Yeah.
was getting ready.
Yeah.
It's almost like you're there, right? A lot of people say it's almost like I'm there. I could see it. In our mind, we have the ability to conjure up memories and relive them, even if it's just mentally. So I find it really interesting that Victor uses that line, the pictures remember. He knows that he's traumatized. Unfortunately, he knows that a lot of stuff has happened to the point where he can rely on his mind. I know that we get frustrated with him. I'm one of the people that gets frustrated with Victor, but even Victor himself is frustrated with his mind. That's why he draws things, because he knows I can't even rely on what I believe has happened. So I'm going to document what I know to be a fact, and I'm going to put that away in a safe place. He himself knows that he's not reliable to just remember things. But yeah, I like that idea. I love the idea of conjuring up a memory and reliving it, being able to see what actually happened. I think it's cool.
Me too. No, I do too. I think everything that we've seen on the show in terms of who Victor is, what those pictures represent, I think it would be fitting. I think it would fit within the storyline that Julie could use these to travel to certain time periods. I think it would definitely fit. But yeah, I guess we shall see. I guess we shall see what will end up ultimately being the bookmarks. We had a lot of people talking last night about other potential objects potentially being bookmarks. Like some were bringing up the objects that Victor had buried in the suitcase or other personal belongings. And some people were even talking about the possibility of Julie's clothing, like her actual clothing being the reason she traveled back to that time period. Was she wearing clothes from the 1978 timeline? Is that why she ended up there? I saw some people even bringing that up. But yeah, I think it's going to be interesting to see where it goes from here. But we got 20 coming in. Thank you so much, 20. Very, very much appreciate you. Very, very much appreciate it. If the lake at the settlement turns out to be the Lake of Tears, Ethan could use its water to give life to Fatima's golem, and it could be the Grand Gulagog. Oh, interesting. Now, I didn't even think about the whole golem thing. That's actually an interesting idea you bring up there, right? Because yes, we are, and I'm working on a golem video right now, a Fatima golem video, and I'm doing, golems have always been super fascinating to me. It's a subject I'm already kind of versed on, but I'm diving even deeper. So I am working on a golem video that I'm going to try and get out tomorrow. So be on the lookout for that. But yes, we found out in this episode, Fatima is building a freaking golem. And yeah, I mean, from what we know about the Lake of Tears, the magical properties that might be in the Lake of Tears in terms of being able to bring people back to life. Or at least that's what we were told from the beginning, at the very beginning of the series, when we first hear the story of the Lake of Tears. It's going to bring Norman back to life. The secret fairies are coming from the Lake of Tears to bring you back to life, to heal you. So yeah, could that potentially be a possibility if they do find the Lake of Tears? If the Lake of Tears is an actual lake, could its water be used to bring Fatima's golem to life? I think that's a very interesting theory.
I like it. I really like it. Ruminary, I can't pronounce your name, but I like your idea. And I would like to add to your theory. I think that you might have evidence that what you are saying might actually be something that could work in From. And I present to you the following. We know that when they pulled that rope, when Roger, the random, pulls the rope,
The NPC,
the
Roger, the NPC.
scarecrows seem to come up, right? These
Yes.
scarecrows seem to come up. Now, they are not living human beings. This isn't flesh and bone. This isn't a decomposing body. It is something that somebody created and dressed up as if it was a human being. It was in the lake, and all of a sudden they come to life. I think you could add that to your theory. That is evidence that this water can bring objects that act as a voodoo doll of sorts to life. It doesn't have to be a human being. Apparently, if you make a doll, throw it in there, it comes out and attacks you. So I think you're onto something. I like it. I think it's interesting. And yes, the people in the chat are saying that the golem looks like the picture that Randall and Julie are looking at. And yes, it does. It's a big guy, right? I don't know much about golems.
It's a big old hunk of mud. I mean, it doesn't look too dissimilar from the creature in the book. That's for sure. That is for sure. No, I like it. I think it's an interesting theory. It's a theory I haven't heard before. And again, we always love hearing new theories that we haven't heard before. It's always fun, especially when you're this late in the game. To hear new theories can sometimes be a rarity with how much we've kind of covered all of this together, all of you guys in the chat and us, but so it's always fun to see some nice new theories that are, some interesting ones. But yeah, who knows? Maybe the Lake of Tears can bring the golem to life. But yeah, I like it. Interesting theory. And thank you, Sent, again, so much for the 20. Very, very much appreciate it. Very, very much appreciate it. And I owe you a glitter bomb. Glitter bomb. Awesome stuff, guys. Awesome stuff. Let's see what else we got. Scrolling down. Yeah, the golem thing's going to be fun, I think. I think it's going to be fun. How come no one talks about how Fatima knew she was pregnant before Smiley died? There's probably more to Fatima, generally speaking. And that is something we've discussed, a few times here, at least here on previous streams in the past. Because yes, when we go back to season 2, Fatima is starting to feel the effects of potentially being pregnant before Smiley even dies. And she asked for the pregnancy test literally right after Smiley gets killed. And at that point, she had already been feeling it for a while. So yeah, there was a little bit of a discrepancy there in terms of how did this happen? Was Fatima really pregnant, like with an actual baby that got taken over by Smiley? Or was there just a little bit of a continuity error there in terms of Smiley coming back and the timeline of Fatima's conception? I don't know. I mean, again, maybe there is a possibility that there was a baby at first and the baby got taken over by Smiley.
Hmm. And when you read the comment, I immediately said, Jeremy does. This is an issue that Jeremy has had. He has an issue with that storyline. I remember you going off about how she was already pregnant and the baby was hijacked by Smiley
Could have been.
because, you know,
Mhm.
I don't want to give you guys the talk about the birds and the bees, but she would have had to be pregnant in order for the pregnancy test to show a positive sign,
Mhm.
right? It couldn't have been that same day. But
No,
this is a magical place. And if it is
exactly.
a magical place, then anything is possible. Everything is a possibility. That's kind of what we're going for. Is it an issue? It is an issue.
Mhm.
Maybe they're going to resolve that. Maybe they're going to resolve that. And Code Knox, thank you so much. You guys have been so nice to me. You guys have embraced me. And yeah, we don't always have to agree. I like not
Absolutely.
agreeing. It's more fun. Just ask Jeremy.
It would
We
be
like
boring. It would be so boring, right? I mean,
it
if
would
we
be
all had the
so
same,
boring.
yeah, if we all had the same thoughts, if we all had the same theories, if we all agreed on every little thing, then these discussions would be pointless. It would be, there would be no point to even doing these discussions if we all just kind of thought the
Yeah.
same thing. So
And
yeah,
we
having
don't
these,
agree with everybody, but like, we love all of you.
yeah,
And that's why we bring up comments that go directly against what we're saying, because
mhm,
it's nice to have a different point of view. We're never going to knock your point of view down just because it goes against what we're saying. This is a educated dialogue that
mhm,
we're having here. This is our group project and everybody's opinion is valid. So yeah,
yeah,
I love you guys too. We don't have to agree with anything. It's even more fun. I will call up Jeremy and we will argue. Like, you think that this is us going
yeah.
back and
BM,
forth?
BM and
We
I,
scream at
well,
each
I
other.
wouldn't say scream, but
I scream at him.
we definitely we definitely disagree on theories as much as we agree on theories.
Oh
Absolutely,
yeah.
and
Oh
that's what
yeah.
makes it fun. That's what
He's
makes the
like,
show.
you're wrong. You're wrong. That's not what I
I,
was saying. If you let me finish.
no, not like that. But no, I mean, again, it would just be so boring. It would be so boring if we all just had the same theories. So yeah, it's always, and that's why we like hearing everybody's thoughts in the chat. We want to know what you guys think. What did you like? What did you not like? What did you think worked? What didn't work? Like this as well from downtown, for $10. Thank you so much, from downtown. I know it's still early, but any guesses on what that rope is connected to that Roger was pulling? Roger, the NPC. Yeah, and unfortunately, again, I think this is another one of the instances where, thanks to the season 4 trailer, we already know what's on the other end of the rope. And again, maybe not everybody has seen the trailer, or maybe, the trailer came out so long ago, so it's really easy to kind of forget certain scenes that were in the trailer. But in the season 4 trailer, we see a pretty good idea of what exactly is going to be on the other end of that rope, what exactly Roger is pulling out of that lake. We see a couple shots of it in the season 4 trailer. And it looks like it's going to be the scarecrows, the scarecrow monsters that we have seen in the season 4 trailer, the ones that seem to be breaking down the cabins over at Cannibal Village, at the new ruined settlement. In the trailer, when we first see these things, we see a still shot of them just lying on the ground covered in seaweed. And at the time, when I first saw the trailer, I always wondered, why are these things covered in seaweed? Like, what exactly is going on here? That looks like they are covered in freaking seaweed. And now it looks like we get that answer as to why they're covered in seaweed, because they came from the lake. So it looks like that is what Roger and the rest of them are going to be yanking out from that lake, the scarecrow creatures that we see in the season 4 trailer. And again, I know we've talked about this numerous times and probably sound like a broken record at this point, but this is why certain things just shouldn't be in the trailer. Like if we didn't have those scarecrow scenes in the actual season 4 trailer, that scene at the end of this episode would have been such an awesome cliffhanger. All of us wondering, what the fuck was that? What is coming up from that lake? What is it going to be? But seeing as we kind of already got the answer in the season 4 trailer, it takes a little bit of the cliffhanger part of it, the suspense part of it away. So yeah, I think, at times like this, you kind of wish that certain things maybe weren't in the trailer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. At this point, I'm going with whatever is official. If they have decided to officially put out information, then I'm watching it. I'm going to watch the trailer. I'm going to
We
watch
got it.
whatever they officially have put out as previews for the next episode. We know that there's a preview tonight that you're going to be uploading to the channel. And
Mhm.
I just think I'm going to trust them. Maybe there is something coming that will genuinely surprise us. And so they don't mind giving away the scarecrows because that's
Mhm.
not the worst of it. And
Maybe.
that's what I'm hoping. I'm hoping the scarecrows are there. We're not just getting the scarecrows. Apparently, there's a golem and other entities out there. So maybe they have something prepared for us that we're going to be
Mhm.
very surprised to see.
And that's also, a very big possibility that maybe they didn't mind showing us the scarecrows in the trailer because they know that they got some crazier stuff waiting for us down the road, which is definitely a possibility, and that'll be pretty cool to see. But even if they do have some cooler stuff waiting down the road, they still should not have shown us those freaking scarecrows. But yeah, sometimes, that's trailers these days, and that's the thing. I feel like trailers nowadays are usually on like very opposite ends of the spectrum, like extreme ends of the spectrum, where trailers will either show way too much or nothing at all, and you won't be able to tell anything about what's going on for the upcoming film. It seems to be it's like one or the other usually these days, and it's not really kind of that happy medium in the middle. But yeah, when it comes to the From trailers, that is a comment that we have been seeing from a lot of fans this year, that a lot of fans were, wishing that there were certain things that weren't in the trailer. And that's understandable. Again, totally understandable. But like you said as well, PM, this is how they package their show, and this is what they put in the trailer for a reason. And you'd like to think that maybe there are some kind of other things waiting for us down the road that are even crazier than this if they don't mind showing us this. So hopefully that is the case.
Yeah,
Hopefully.
we're gonna be positive and optimistic about the next episodes. But this is really fun, Jeremy. The chat, and I agree with all of you in the chat. Him pulling the rope, Roger pulling the rope, which by the way,
Right.
Pam
Right.
Jam is correctly stating that is boat rope. That's boat roping rope, right?
Mhm.
So she thought it was going to be a boat, but that's interesting that that's the style and type of rope that they use for this particular scene.
Mhm.
And I agree, Jessica, that should
Yeah.
have been a group decision.
Yeah.
They live in a place where monsters come out at night. He doesn't think about it twice. I know
Just
that we know his name is Roger because somebody sees what he's doing and they go, Roger? Like, what the
Roger.
hell are you up to? God damn it, Roger.
Mhm.
He should have told people. We know that there's a big boss. There's a big boss that went with them.
Yeah.
Sometimes they go without Donna, but this time they happen to go with Donna. If Donna doesn't go, then they have Kenny. There's a boss sort of figure that he could have consulted. Like, Donna, do you think it would be a good idea
Should
if
we
I
yank on
pull
this thing?
monsters
Yeah.
out of the Would you like me to pull the monsters out of the lake? Yes,
Yeah.
no.
Oh, is this a good idea, Donna? Should we pull this mysterious rope leading into the weird Death Lake in weird Fromville? I mean, we don't know what's on the other end, but I should just yank on this thing, right? Yeah, good old Roger, man. But no, I agree with you. I definitely agree with you. That should have been a group decision. This is something they should have decided amongst themselves. Roger the NPC should not be the one pulling rank where he sees a freaking random rope leading out into the freaking lake and just yanks on it. Roger the NPC should not be making these calls. So no, I do fully agree with you. There should have been some consulting going on there. Absolutely.
Everyone's like, who invited Roger, says Jessica.
Who the hell even
They
invited
sure are
Roger?
gonna be right after those scarecrows get done with them. They're gonna say, God damn it, who invited Roger? It
Yeah.
had to be him. But some of you were saying the reason why they made him be the person to pull the rope is because somebody has to die. We know that
He's
there
going to be
has
the
to be
one. Yeah.
casualties, and
Yeah.
so it's going to probably be Roger and a couple of the other NPCs, as you guys like to call them.
Yeah.
I think you guys are right on point. We can't lose Donna or Ethan or Tabitha, right? So it's gonna have to be some of the NPCs that get it, that get the wrath of these demonic Kool-Aid people.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like that is coming up. We know that our characters, they are at Cannibal Village. They are going to be spending the night at the ruined settlement in those cabins, and thanks to episode 4, we actually got a glimpse of the 6 people that actually went on the trip. And yeah, there's only 2 extras, I think. There's like 2 NPCs, and the rest are main characters in Donna, Ellis, Ethan, and Tabitha. So yeah, I mean, I have to imagine that, yeah, you guys are probably right. Whoever in the chat said Roger pulling the rope is probably going to be the reason why he gets it. Yeah, you might be spot on. Maybe this is why they had Roger, the NPC, pull the rope and no one else, because he's going to have to pay the price of waking these scarecrow monsters up, maybe. But yeah, and I like, as the GH review points out, yeah, the cabin was a huge mystery last season. They shouldn't have showed that in the trailer, but whatever. It's Demon Kool-Aid Man time. Yes, it is.
Oh yeah, I love that. They're gonna pop right in there. But I know that when we see that in the trailer, it's nighttime, which means that they kind of don't come to life, just like the monsters. I think that we could draw a comparison,
They come to
a
life
similarity.
at night.
It's at nighttime that they come to life and do monstrous things. Maybe during the day, they're just scarecrows. So that will give them the ability to leave if they can survive the night, which is going to be the task, surviving the night with these demonic Kool-Aid people running around.
Yes, and I think that's going to be, because we not only do we get the scene of the demonic Kool-Aid men bursting into the cabin, but we also get that other scene of that one demonic Kool-Aid man kind of bending down and reaching down towards someone and grabbing someone. And that scene also takes place at night. So if this thing busts into the cabin, naturally you have to imagine that they're going to have to retreat. They're going to have to make a run for it. They're going to have to try and get away from that cabin and maybe run into the woods. And yeah, maybe we see them pursue our characters, throughout the rest of the episode. And maybe the one reaching down that we see in the trailer is him reaching down for one of our survivors, Donna, maybe Ethan even, because we get that other shot of that other demonic Kool-Aid man reaching down towards the ground for someone. So yeah, I think it's going to be interesting to seeing again, they're in the cabin, they got the talisman up, they think they're safe. Next thing you know, boom, demonic Kool-Aid man is here. He's pummeling away on someone. We see that he clearly gets someone inside the cabin and he's pounding away on them. And thanks to one of the latest promos that they released on the from MGM X account, we saw a new close-up picture of the scarecrow creatures. And it looks like they have giant teeth. Like giant freaking teeth, it looks like they have, which you didn't see in the trailer, because in the trailer they don't open their mouths, but in this shot, one of them did have their mouth open. It looked like they had freaking just giant teeth. So I think it's going to be interesting seeing them, bust into the cabin, and then seeing them have to retreat out into the woods and then survive the night. Then you're just out there. That is literally the worst case scenario to be in Fromville. Out there in the woods, no protection, in the middle of the night with new creatures chasing you.
Yeah, and something that I like to do once we see the episode is I like to contemplate what the title of the episode had to do with what we're about to see. We know that this episode is titled Of Myths and Monsters, correct? So
no, that was this episode.
Yeah,
That
this
was
episode. That's what I'm talking about. We're talking about this episode,
oh, the one
Jeremy.
that we just watched. Oh, I thought you were talking about
Yes.
next week's one. Okay, no, I
No,
thought you were
this
talking
one.
about next week. That's what you're talking
Now
about
we could connect it to what we saw of myths and monsters. The myth part has to be Fatima saying that her father would tell stories about all of these different things that
all of these
people would
different
do within
cultures.
religion, right?
Yeah,
Um, and the monster part has to be that Roger's pulling up the monsters.
and the
We, if
golem,
we,
and the
and the
golem.
golem,
You know,
and the golem.
definitely.
So I think if we look at it that way, we're getting two monsters. That golem and these scarecrows might come to life. When I first
Hmm.
heard you guys say that the golem might come to life and attack people, I thought it was outlandish, but the scarecrows
Nope.
are going to do it. So why can't he do it? If they could get it, so can the golem, right? It makes
And
perfect sense.
again,
And you might have a Godzilla versus what's that movie where it's like two monsters battling each other? Godzilla
King
versus
Kong versus Godzilla. Yeah,
you might have that type of moment where it's Godzilla versus King Kong, and it is what Fatima created as their champion against the demonic Kool-Aid people.
maybe, maybe. Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting. I mean, just from the trailer, it looks like we do know that these scarecrows, they're coming. It looks like they're coming. They're coming to life. We've seen that already. But the golem's going to be interesting. I think that's going to be super fun to see. Is this golem actually going to come to life? Is this thing actually going to work? If it does, is it going to help them? Is it going to hurt them? A lot of stuff going on there. But I can't wait to see it. Again, I feel like they've given Fatima a really interesting storyline in season 4, where in past seasons, her storyline hasn't always been the strongest, just for me personally. But here in season 4, so far, they're giving her a pretty interesting storyline. And yeah, I like the analogy there, where the title of the episode of Myths and Monsters is very much referring to mostly Fatima in this episode, of her, like you said, talking about all these different kind of stories she heard and literally building her own monster. So this is going to be fun. I think it's going to be very interesting. Yeah, the problem with golems is they tend to get out of control. This is very true, Doc. Very true indeed. And again, there's a very particular scene that we hear one of the actors talking about earlier that I think might be directly involved in this golem thing, maybe. I can't wait. I can't wait to see where this is going to go. Where is this going to go? And of course, where are these scarecrow creatures going to go? Yes, we did see in the trailer that they bust into the cabin, but we have no idea what happens after that. So I think that's the most exciting part, I guess, for me heading into the next episode. Yes, we know they're going to burst into the cabin, but we have no idea what's going to happen after that.
Exactly. Poor Ethan. I'm thinking about Ethan. He never ventures out. Ethan, I mean, yeah, he's a runaway, right? When Acosta refuses to pick him up. But we have his mother. We have Tabby finally saying, you know what? I want to help you work through this trauma of your father passing away. This is the reasoning for taking him out there, to have some resolution as to his idea that that is still out there somewhere. And
Yeah.
she happens to take him when demonic scarecrows are going to come to life. Poor Ethan. He never goes out there. And when he does, bad things happen.
Crazy
I
shit
don't
happens.
think that that's going to be very helpful to him in grieving. A lot of people in the chat were saying, though, Tabitha is on one. We have seen that Tabitha has been angry for a couple of episodes. And when I was doing the rewatch, when she's talking to Randall, she has her fist out. It's something that you just see for a split second, but she says, if you betray her trust, I will, I'm going to get you basically. And she puts
Yeah.
a fist out to Randall. I was like, oh, damn, Tabby. What are you going to do? You're going to punch him? You're going to punch him right now?
I mean, she looked like she might have there for a second. Looked like she might have. And we got Mick Light for $2. Thank you so much, Mick Light, for the 2. Very much appreciate it, my friend. Will the scarecrows and the creatures meet? Yeah, again, definitely a good question. What role are these scarecrows really going to play on the show? They finally made an appearance, actually, kind of in the story, I guess you could say, with them showing up at the funeral the way they did, and even more so with the reaction that some of our characters had to them. Sophia in particular. Sophia did not look like she was very happy to see those crows show up like that, which makes you wonder, what exactly are these crows and what purpose do they serve? But yeah, I don't know. I mean, will the scarecrows and the creatures meet? Maybe, maybe. I think that could be very interesting. Actually, seeing these scarecrow creatures interact with like Smiley or something, that could be very kind of very weird, but it could be very interesting. I mean, that's one thing we haven't really seen much of on the show is different monsters, different creatures interacting with each other. Whether it's the man in yellow, I mean, the man in yellow hasn't really interacted with anything else. We haven't seen the monsters interact with anything else. But maybe we could. Who knows? Maybe we'll actually see one of these scarecrow creatures and a monster in the same scene. I don't know. I think it's possible.
Hmm. I like the idea.
And
I
it would
like
give
the
us an
idea because I
answer if
want to
everything gets
see
along too. Like
exactly. I
if they
want to
don't
see
attack each
if
other. Yeah.
maybe the monsters run away from the damn scarecrows. I mean,
Maybe the monsters run
even
away
they
from
don't
these
want to
things.
get it.
Yeah,
But
I know.
MacLight, thank you for the super chat. And I'm thinking scarecrows. I want to see the scarecrows and the crows interact. We know
That
that the
too. That
scarecrows
too.
are
Yeah.
deliberately against crows. I mean, that is their whole reason for being. The
Yeah.
reason for being is to scare them away. So I want
Yeah.
to see the scarecrows interacting with these things.
Yeah.
We haven't
Definitely.
seen them. So remember, Ethan finds a bird that is hurt, and this
Yep.
is not a crow. They make sure that we understand that this is very different. They have never seen anything that is not a crow. So could it
Hmm.
be that crows don't even go into that radius because there are scarecrows at the bottom of the lake? Could they sense that? Could it be that they don't even get close to that place? And so this little bird is the only living bird that could be close to the scarecrows. I think it's a
Hmm.
possibility.
Hmm.
For some
Yeah. No.
reason, I
Definitely.
thought they had to dunk the poor little bird,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. Instead of
they're doing a baptism. They're doing a baptism of
yeah.
sorts.
Yeah. I mean, when you look at traditional healing pools and healing pits, like the Lazarus pit, for instance, traditionally, yeah, you have to kind of submerge in the thing underwater fully. And again, just like on Lost, and this is why we're paralleling Lost a lot on this show, maybe a little too much at times, because Lost also has a pool like this that can bring people back to life, that can heal people, but you have to submerge them underwater in it. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe they just didn't. Maybe their method wasn't sound in the baptism, as you say. Maybe they needed to dunk the poor thing in it for it to work. But yeah, will the scarecrows meet the actual monster creatures? I don't know, but I think that would be a very interesting scene to see. So I certainly wouldn't mind seeing that. And again, it would at least give us some kind of answer as to the kind of hierarchy. Is there some kind of hierarchy out there amongst the monsters? Are they all just kind of doing their own thing? Do they all kind of know each other? Like, do the monsters know that there's other things out there in the woods? I have to imagine they probably know, right? But yeah, what is the interaction like? Is there some kind of hierarchy? Do these things ever interact with one another, or do all of these monsters kind of just stay away from each other, kind of thing?
Mhm.
Is that why we only see our monsters in town? Like when we're at town, close to town, we see our monsters. But when they're at Cannibal Village, far away from town, we don't really see any of our monsters. We don't. It seems like they are most of them anyway seem to be located closer to the town. So
Mhm.
maybe it's a territorial type thing where this Cannibal Village place is the territory of these creatures, where the town is the territory of the monsters.
Yeah. It definitely could be. There's a really interesting comment here, Jeremy, and I want to get your take on it.
Mm,
Um, I can't find it at the moment, but the comment basically said they're afraid that now that we have seen the way that Sophia works, we know that she threw herself, right?
yeah,
She's looking at the pool, she's trying to figure out how do I throw myself from the right or the left? What's going to look the best? She hurts herself. Now they're theorizing, could it be that she's not going to hurt necessarily somebody else in town, but she's going to say that Sarah did something to her since they're living so closely together, and people would tend to believe her that Sarah has hurt her in some sort of way or
yeah.
has done something to her or forced her
Mhm.
to do something bad. And I'm kind of afraid for my Sarah because yes, I think that you have a point. I think that she could definitely, we know that she hurts herself. So if she
Yeah,
did it once, why wouldn't she do it again?
hmm No, I could definitely see that. I could definitely 100% see that. I could even see that being the reason why Sophia wanted to live with Sarah as opposed to anybody else that she could have chosen. Maybe that is one of her plans to get the town to further turn against Sarah, get them to think that she's gone off her rocker again. Maybe that's why Sophia goes so far as to manipulate Sarah in this episode to see if she can get Sarah back to that place where she'll listen to her, where she'll listen to the voices again. As we also learned in this episode, it looks like it was the man in yellow behind the voices, maybe the whole time, or at least some of the times. So yeah, I think it's very much a possibility. Very much a possibility that Sarah needs to be
Mm,
careful and look out for what
yeah.
Sophia could do, not just physically, but like you said, the more manipulation aspect of it in terms of Sophia hurting herself and getting everyone to think Sarah did it. Definitely could
Hmm.
see that.
Yeah, and I did not notice this. So Sarah Jam says Sophia broke her arm the same as the bird. Did you
Mm,
happen to catch if it's the same arm? Was it the left arm that the bird? I mean, we could see it here actually because it's
mhm.
bandaged where it's hurt, correct?
Yeah.
So this is the
Here
right arm,
here it
right?
looks to be the right wing of the bird. And I think it was Sophia's right arm. But I also remember someone in the chat saying like she falls on one side, but the other arm is the one that gets hurt. So
Hmm.
I haven't gone back and checked and corroborated that myself. But yeah, no, that's a good question. Could it also be the same arm as the bird that
Yeah.
Sophia hurts? Yeah, I guess we'd have
Maybe
to.
we know that when they're at the clinic, Christy tells us and shows us what arm is hurt. So if we
There we
go,
go.
yes,
Okay, it's her left arm. It's
left,
Sophia's left arm, not her right. So two different arms. Two
two
different
different,
arms.
but I think it's an interesting connection. It just
Mhm.
so happens to be that they're both wounded. Could Sophia be this little bird? We know that she can turn into
Mhm.
different people. I wouldn't put
Yeah.
it past it to have the ability to be that bird, right? To get
Shapeshift
them
into
to think.
animals, not just
Mhm.
people, maybe.
The something tells me, I know that it was Jim who was asking Ethan to find the Lake of Tears, but something tells me maybe the man in yellow also needs to know about the Lake of Tears. If you pretend to be a wounded bird, then Ethan would take you to the Lake of Tears without
Maybe.
knowing, right?
Yeah. Yeah, maybe. Maybe. Yeah, if the man in yellow is also looking for this lake of tears, if this lake of tears is real, which I still think is up for question. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that later because, in a minute, actually, because Jade mentions something very interesting in this episode on that front. But we got Katrina Marie for another 420. Thank you so much, Katrina Marie. We saw the monsters pause for the music box. This is very true. Very true. That's right. In season two, and even Donna kind of points it out in a sense where she says, whoa, like even Donna was surprised. She's never seen the monsters do this before. They never stop. They never just stop and stand still like that. Donna's never seen them do that. And all of a sudden, yes, we see these monsters come close to the RV and then just completely just stop in their tracks. And then boom, the radio comes on two seconds later, and that's when we're dealing with this whole cicada entity thing that was going on in town. So yeah, I mean, what was that an indication of? Some people thought that was an indication of the monsters sensing what was about to happen in the RV, so they just stopped, which is most likely probably what it was. But yeah, does that give us an indication that these monsters can communicate on some wavelength, or at least can sense each other on some wavelength, that the monsters could sense what was about to happen in that RV, or they just straight
Mhm.
up knew what was about to happen in that RV. Either way, it seems like there is some kind of level of connection there of you know um,
Mhm.
communication, if
A
nothing else.
hierarchy of sorts,
Maybe
where
some
if
kind of
somebody
hierarchy.
is currently, if you're terrorizing the humans, I'm gonna let you do
It's
it,
your
right?
turn.
Because you're higher.
It's
It's
your
your turn
turn.
to terrorize the humans, and we will leave you to it. That sort of thing, Katrina Marie.
hmm
Thank you so much for the super chat.
hmm
And
And she
the
also brings up another good point, though, that it is the same entity that ended up killing Smiley in a sense. Yes, that's very true. That these same entities, these worms, ended up killing Smiley, and from those worms, these cicadas were kind of born. So yeah, that's a good point.
Mhm. We are in sync, Katrina Marie, because what I was about to say is that I understand that now we have seen that if you kill a monster, they come back. There is
Yeah.
a process. They are eternal, immortal of sorts. However, the process was not comfortable for Smiley. Even if you are going to return, I would say that looked like it hurt. He was
Getting
screaming and
killed.
everybody was like looking around. Yes,
Yeah.
they all of the other monsters looked at him and saw what was happening and they took off. They were like, "Oh no, I don't want any of this.
Fuck
I
this.
don't want." Yeah, exactly. They were like, "Listen, I know I'm gonna come back, but hell no, I don't want to be an egg. I don't want to be no, no, no. I don't want to see kimono right now." They took
Mhm.
off. They didn't help them. There was no sort of interaction where it seemed like, oh, I'm still gonna hang around. Even though
Yeah.
Smiley's dying, I'm gonna continue and I'm going to attack the humans. No, they
And
took
they
off.
didn't
They're like,
even
the humans have something right now. We don't want to get close to them.
they didn't even care about Boyd either. That's the thing. Like even after Boyd kills Smiley with the worms, the monsters don't even pay Boyd any mind. They could have easily just killed Boyd at that point. They must have seen, they had to have seen that these worms were gone now. But then again, like you said, these monsters they don't care about anything in that moment. They're just so
Mhm.
fixed on watching what is happening to Smiley in such awe. And then yeah, they just take the fuck off afterwards. They don't want anything to do with it.
That's right.
You want it? My blood is your blood now, motherfucker.
I like this game.
Mhm. Don't
That
they do not care.
the way he screams, okay,
Yeah.
that looks very uncomfortable and very painful. He's surprised, right? Because he's
Yeah.
thinking, nothing's gonna happen to me, I don't really care. But then
Mhm.
he's like, oh my god, like what the hell
He's
is
like, "Oh,
happening?
shit."
And he starts
A and
screaming.
Mm. And Smiley up until that point was, you almost got the sense that he was like maybe like one of the ringleaders of the monsters, one of the main monsters. Well, I know they used his imagery for all the promotional material, but out of all the monsters that step out of the woods in that moment, it's almost like the rest of them are all backing up Smiley's play. Like Smiley's the one talking to Boyd. Smiley's the one walking up to Boyd. The rest of them are all just kind of standing there playing backup. So you kind of get the sense that Smiley was like their leader. So for them to kind of see this happening to him, yeah, they got the fuck out of there after that. They didn't even care about Boyd. They didn't care about anything that was going on. They just waltzed right off into the woods like nothing happened.
Yeah.
But yeah, iconic scene.
Somebody
Absolutely.
said in the chat, the monsters were like, we don't want any of that smoke.
we want none of this. We want none of this tonight. Let's go back to our
Exactly.
cave.
It looked
Back to our
painful.
cave.
So even if you're going to return as an egg-shaped
You're still gonna die a
form,
painful death.
it's
Yeah.
still painful. It's still something that they probably rather not go through, right?
Yeah.
But on the
Right.
topic of them communicating and there being a hierarchy of monsters, I want to know about their meetings. We have seen that the monsters have orchestrated little plans, like when they killed Tien Cheng and when
Yeah.
Acosta got into town. They have orchestrated plans in which each
Strategy.
one of them have a task to
Yeah.
accomplish,
Yeah.
right? And then they follow the others follow shortly behind. So that
Mhm.
means that they're talking, they're strategizing, they're having communication. I want to know what that's like. Are they verbally talking to each other? Is it a mental sort of indicator that told that monster go play possum while Acosta's freaking out
Yeah.
and killing everyone?
Yeah.
How is it that they gather, the information that they do? Because they know everybody's name in town. They know details about them enough to taunt them, right?
Mhm.
I want to know how they gather that information and what a monster meeting looks like. We have all been asking for a human meeting where they communicate. I want to see the monsters meeting. How do you guys communicate? Um,
Yeah.
Cowboy kind of gave me the vibe that he was the leader. I know Smiley gave off that vibe too. Is there a leader? Are
Yeah.
you guys just, how is it that they communicate? But anyway, you're pulling up my favorite scene. You asked
Yeah,
a
I only
question
wanted to
earlier.
just because I wanted to double check because there were people in the chat last night saying Sophia falls on her right side yet injures her left arm. And yeah, you guys are right. Whoever was pointing that out last night, it looks like you guys are correct. When we see Sophia, it looks like she kind of fell on her right side. Yet when she's in the clinic, we see her left arm getting treated by Christy. So yeah, interesting detail there.
I find it very interesting. And I think that while the entity in yellow, that is Sophia and the man in yellow, seems to be very devious and manipulating, they're making mistakes. They're not perfect. We see that when they tell the story of how they got into town, they forget to include the crows were there. I saw
Crows.
crows in a tree. They don't include the crows. So they made a mistake there. Here, for example, they're falling on their right side and hurting their left arm. These are all little clues that potentially people can be picking up on. If I
Mhm.
was Christy, I would say, how, come to think of it, how did this happen exactly? How is it that you fell on your right side but hurt your left, right? That's not making sense. I think in a way, the entity in yellow is so used to winning that they're being careless because they're not being perfect in the way that they are going about town. They're
Yeah,
definitely being carefree. They don't think that
making
they're
some
going to lose or
mistakes.
that anybody's going to find out. Yeah, but
Mhm.
this is a mistake.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
was my favorite scene. I know that the question was like, what WTF moment was your favorite in the episode? And this was my favorite when
Okay.
she is looking at the pool and she's strategizing, how do I throw myself and where? Left or right? How do I do it? How do I cry?
Oh man, yeah, it was kind of funny. It was. I mean, for me, I think the look on her face when she's actually in the pool. Like, I know we were
Yeah.
finding some pretty funny freeze frames last night. There, that was pretty good. Just the look on her face, like, oh man, like I'm so hurt. I'm so hurt.
Ow. Somebody
Ah,
pushed me.
somebody push me. But no, I mean, a lot of you in the chat are onto it, are saying the same thing that, maybe Sophia's starting to slip, that maybe maybe we're starting to see some kind of continuity issues. Or as Elizabeth brings up as well, maybe the man in yellow is making these mistakes on purpose to see if anyone will catch him. I mean, is it a game to him? Yeah. Does he want to, is there a slight part of him that maybe wants to be caught so we can have the big reveal? I mean, we've seen the man in yellow. He seemed to be a bit of a showman at the beginning of the
Yes.
season. You know, he's bit flamboyant, bit eccentric, bit kind of comedic aspect to him. He seemed to be a showman. So yeah, maybe there is a small part of him that, at some point wants to get caught so we can have the big reveal,
Yeah.
Um,
Nobody who wears canary yellow in a suit
right.
doesn't want attention. He loves the
Exactly. You
attention. He
want
is
the
a
attention if
showman,
you're wearing a fucking yellow suit, a yellow
right?
canary.
Canary yellow suit, yes. But I
Mhm.
love your reaction, your real-time reaction of watching this, where she says, somebody pushed me. And you
Somebody
said you
push
threw
me.
yourself, asshole.
Threw
That was
yourself,
so
asshole.
funny to me. Somebody
Yeah, it felt
pushed
like someone pushed me. Bullshit. You threw yourself, asshole.
me.
Oh God, yeah, this was a funny part. Just seeing and again, seeing Sophia try to pretend to be human has been kind of comical at times. The Biennial is not very good at pretending to be human. It sticks out like a sore freaking thumb.
Yeah.
So yeah, I imagine it's only a matter of time. Only a matter of time before Sophia continues to start slipping up a little bit, and our townsfolk start to notice. Absolutely. Yeah, I thought she was gonna like dig up Dale from the pool or something at first, right? I mean, yeah, when we first see her, she's standing there and she's staring right at the bricks, or it looks like anyway, she's staring right at Dale. And I'm thinking, what the fuck's going on here? Is she gonna dig up Dale? Yeah, I was wondering that too. because she did seem to be honing in, right, staring at Dale. But no, she was just getting ready to do some method acting.
Yeah, I mean, something tells me that even though this is an entity, right, it seems to be experiencing pain. It seems like it experiences a level of discomfort. When it was turning, it was screaming, and you see its body
Yeah,
come undone.
yeah.
So I think maybe it does experience pain. So it was trying to strategize. I need to break this arm. How do I throw
Hmm.
myself so it's hard enough for my arm to be broken and for
Hmm.
everybody to see me?
And I mean, Sandflyer brings up a really good point. I mean, she did this in the middle of broad daylight, in the
Yeah.
middle of when the town is super active and there's always people walking around and stuff. Like, yeah, could we see a possibility that one of the random NPCs saw her just throw herself into the fucking pool?
It's like I
Maybe.
saw her dive. She did the whole diving
Yeah, she must have thought
motion.
there was water in there or something. Yeah. Is that a possibility that one of the townsfolk actually saw her do this? Again, it is broad daylight, and the pool is right next to the diner. The diner was filled at the time. Like, yeah, I think it wouldn't be too far fetched to if we found out someone actually saw her do this.
Yes.
Absolutely.
So when it comes to Sophia, I have a theory that Sophia, while she is bad and manipulate, she doesn't always lie. It's really
Yeah.
interesting that the man in yellow is able to observe people and notices the good qualities in them. Because when she's killing her daddy, quote unquote, she says, "You're a good man. You had goodness in your heart. You wanted to help me. That's why you picked
Mhm.
me up,
Yeah.
right? I wish that you could be here." So
Mhm.
the man in yellow isn't just doing things nonchalant to the point where he doesn't realize I'm about to kill somebody that was trying to help me, somebody that
Uh-huh.
is kind. He will tell you all of the positive things about yourself and still kill you and take your
Yeah.
teeth. So it
Uh-huh.
has perspective and it doesn't always lie. For example, when she was talking to Fatima and not Fatima, to Sarah, and she says, "Why did you want to live with me?" And so she gives her this thing of, I just don't believe that good people don't suffer from the bad
Mhm.
things that they've done. I think
Yeah.
that that is technically true because the men or the entity in yellow has perspective. They can observe people and see goodness in them. So I do think
Uh-huh.
that the entity sees goodness in Sarah, still
Hmm.
gonna go ahead and manipulate her and kill her, but it's not biased to the point where it doesn't see the goodness in people. It's not cynical. It's not
Mhm.
nihilistic. That's very interesting about the entity. It
Mhm.
sees the goodness in the world and the goodness in people. Also, she then says, and also here, I could have my own room and laughs. I
Yeah.
think that some of those are actually the entity in Yellow's thoughts. They're
Mhm.
lying when they say, "I love it here. I could have my own room." If they're in Colony House, everybody's going to be looking at them 24/7. She can't disappear so that she could do something bad. She's going to be around people who can tell that she's missing or she's doing
Easier to
something
sneak
weird.
off
Mhm.
and stuff like that.
And with
Mhm.
Sarah, she has her own room. She could say she was sleeping and she could be gone doing some
Yeah.
other thing. So I
Yeah.
think that she's saying the truth when she says, "These are the reasons why I picked to live with you, Sarah."
Yeah. Saying the truth just for different reasons. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. You can definitely see that. I mean, it's a lot easier for her to move about. It's just her and Sarah in that giant house. It's only them two in there. So yeah, it'd be a lot easier for Sophia to kind of sneak out and do her kind of man in yellow skullduggery at night while without Sarah knowing. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. But yeah, again, overall, I thought this was a pretty good episode. I think they are very much setting up some very big things to happen next week. It looks like with the whole trip to Cannibal Village with Donna, Tabitha, Ethan, Ellis, and the various NPCs like Roger the NPC who are also there. Looks like we're finally going to get that pretty big scene that we saw in the season 4 trailer regarding the scarecrows. So I think next week is going to be a really, really big one. And again, even though we saw them burst through the cabin in the trailer, we have no idea what's going to happen afterwards. And that's what I want to see. How is that scene going to really play out? We saw a split second of it, but we still have so much to discover when the episode actually comes. But again, I do still understand everybody's sentiment when they say they wish that scene wasn't in the trailer, because I get it. I'm of a similar mind, because I can only put myself in that mindset of, if I'm watching that episode and I don't know that scene's coming, that's the type of scene that's going to make me like fucking jump out of my seat, like, holy fucking shit, I did not expect that coming. So I definitely get the sentiment of people wishing that it wasn't in the trailer, but it'll still be interesting to see where it goes from there. How is the rest of that scene going to play out? And yes, the trailer, that is why I'm going to get ready to end this one here. I am going to, as soon as I'm done with the stream, I will be uploading the episode 5 trailer. So anybody who wants to see it, you guys will be able to check it out here on the channel in a little bit. And yeah, we will be diving into all things from continuously throughout the week with some videos that we're planning. Raven and I will be live during the week on Thursday night. And then you can catch PM and I again right here next week, next Saturday, for our episode 5 live watch party and discussion. And we will see where this crazy story is going to go. What's going to be good about getting episode 5 done is it seems like from episode 6 on is going to be a lot of stuff that we are just not going to know what's coming, because it seems like the majority of the footage that we got in all of the trailers has seemingly already taken place. Most of the footage that we've seen seems to only be the first 5 or 6 episodes. So the second half of season 4 is going to be all new stuff that we haven't even gotten a glimpse of yet. So that's going to be really fun heading into episode 6 and beyond. But yes, I will get ready to upload that trailer after this stream ends, and you guys can catch it here on the channel here in a little bit. But until next time, on our before we head out, like we always like to do, we give our episodes a score from 1 to 10, and we want to hear from you guys in the chat. What did you score this episode as well? On a scale from 1 to 10, with 1 being horrible and 10 being perfect, what score would you guys give episode 4 of From, entitled Of Myths and Monsters? PM, what's your score?
I'm thinking I'm going to do an 8.2. An 8 for the episode.
Okay.
And for Sophia throwing herself in the pool, she's going to get the 0.2. I really liked it. I think it was definitely much more fun. And of course, right, setup isn't as fun. It's more fun when you get to see what happens after the setup. So
Yes.
I liked this episode. I thought that there was a lot of interesting things going on. We got to see some of Sophia, but not too much. There's a comment that you guys made yesterday in the stream that I thought was hilarious. They were saying, "Oh, God, we got a break from Acosta," and we did. We kind of got to hang out with the gang of people that we are used to hanging out with, and we got to go back to those characters and see what they're up to, and a tiny bit of Sophia's nonsense. That's the point too, because I'm enjoying it. Her throwing herself and hurting herself, I think that's hilarious. She is very funny. I'm really liking the way she interacts with people, because she is extremely weird. Something bad will happen and immediately she's like, no, 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 this is okay. This is great, because a part of them is still here. It's like, yeah, you're strange. You're a weird girl, but I liked it. How about you, Jeremy?
I enjoyed it. I thought it was a pretty decent episode. It wasn't the episode I thought it was going to be. After episode 3 was setting up some really interesting things. I guess I was expecting a little bit more payoff in episode 4, at least where it came to Jade and his trip, his magic mushroom trip. Didn't really amount to anything. It looks like that'll probably develop more in episode 5. So for that, I was expecting maybe a little bit more in that regard, for this to be a little bit of a bigger episode. But the things that we did get were really interesting. Julie traveling back to the 78 massacre, getting the answer that the man in yellow has been putting these voices in Sarah's head. We got some interesting plot regression and some small reveals. So for me, I would give this episode a 7.5. 7.5 out of 10, I would give it. That would be my score.
That's not bad. What did you give the previous one?
I think the previous one before this, I think I also gave that a 7.5 as well.
Oh, okay. Because I thought this one was much better. You didn't think this was much better?
Yeah, I mean, I thought I enjoyed them both kind of equally, I think.
You didn't like Sophia throwing herself? in
Oh
the
yeah,
pool?
I did. Oh yeah, I thought it was. And again, I thought there were many parts of this episode that I did enjoy, and, and that's why I didn't give it a lower score. But no, yeah, I think 7.5, a solid 7.5. There were a lot of things in the episode that I did enjoy, but there were also some things that I thought were going to happen that didn't. So that takes a few points away for me. But yeah, this was one of the funnier scenes. The NPC just yanking on the fucking rope at the end of the episode, just pulling that thing up to the surface. That was hilarious as well. There were some really good moments in this episode. Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Roger, what are you doing, Roger? But yeah, I'm seeing in the chat, people seem to be around that 7.
We're seeing a lot. Yeah, we're seeing a lot of different scores. We got some 9s, we got some 8s, we got some 8s, we got some 8s, we got some more 9s, some more 9s, some 8s, a 10, an 11, a 9. So we're seeing some really good scores in the chat. We saw a few scores that were a little bit lower. I think we saw a few 4s and a few 5s, which is totally fine. If this episode didn't do it for you, nothing wrong with that at all. But yeah, in terms of average, it seems like we're getting like an average score of around 8.5 in the chat for most people, with again a few 5s and 4s sprinkled within. FaZe gives it a 4, weakest of the season so far. Hey, and again, sometimes episodes are going to be the weakest for people. And that happens. That is definitely going to happen. And for me, I think 3 and 4 were a little bit weaker than 1 and 2. So I'm of a similar mind. But yeah, awesome stuff. Awesome stuff. We got scores all over the place. A lot of 8s, a lot of 9s, but again, a few 4s and 5s as well. And that's what we like
I
to see.
think
We
the
like to see
best,
variation. Yeah.
the best
We like
is
to see
yet to
variation.
come, Jeremy.
Oh,
I
without
think
it.
that we
Without
have
it.
set up for an amazing episode. I can't wait to watch that trailer. So hurry up and upload it, because I'm refreshing your page, your channel. I want
Yes,
that
I will
trailer,
go do
Jeremy.
that right now. Yep. I will go do that right now. And again, big thank you to each and every one of you for hanging out this evening. And a huge thank you to all of you who sent in super chats this evening. I cannot thank you all enough. And yeah, I will get ready working on that episode 5 trailer. I will get it up on the channel as soon as I can. So keep an eye out for that. It should be up pretty soon. And we will see you guys on the next one. Stay safe out there. Keep those tinfoil hats on, folks. And cheers.
Okay, ding dongs. If you don't subscribe to Jeremy Ice and Fire, you're gonna spend the night in the box.
Aren't Cooey